Greetings and welcome to another video in which I want to highlight a certain feature that will be present and included in Final Fantasy's upcoming expansion Dawntrail, which is DLSS or FSR, which means you don't need to buy new hardware for Dawntrail, even though the hardware requirements are increased and the actual load on your computer or console might be higher than before. FSR or DLSS are upscaling methods that use AI and algorithmic learning techniques to render frames at lower resolutions than the normal native resolution. The rendered frames at the lower resolution then are upscaled to match the highest resolution possible, which of course is always the native resolution. But with features like DSR, which is Dynamic Super Resolution, you could go even further, but more to that in another topic. All this has quite developed since its first launch and can definitely be seen as a true solution to help your hardware out whenever a game is too demanding. Good examples are Cyberpunk or Alan Wake 2, where even an RTX 4090 can struggle to produce proper frames and gameplay smoothness. When ray tracing or path tracing are enabled and everything is set to maximum quality, for example. But what does that mean for Final Fantasy XIV? If I'm being totally honest, I personally didn't expect Square Enix to implement DLSS or FSR into Final Fantasy XIV in the near future. And even when the upcoming graphics update to the game looks promising, but demanding for your hardware at the same time, they actually did it and will implement these AI upscaling techniques into the game, which is shown by the Dawntrail benchmark settings. To see what I mean, just check out the first page of the benchmark settings menu, Graphics Settings 1. There under Resolution, we now have Graphics Upscaling, where you can see a box with NVIDIA DLSS or AMD FSR. And below the very important frame rate threshold section. By default, this is set to activate at 60 FPS or below, which only activates this AI feature when your FPS goes below 60. The other option is 30, which I recommend using if you don't want to use this feature at all. However, if we choose the always on mode, the whole graphics rendering will be done under circumstances of DLSS or FSR, depending on what you have chosen above. Just check out the FPS number differences on my benchmark runs. On the left you have DLSS always active and on the right without it. Overall, I would say the visual difference to certain parts of the image that matter is kinda neglectable, but the performance difference is insane. Being bottlenecked by the high frame values and my CPU, I'm already reaching a 25% improvement and even a lower power consumption of my GPU. The biggest advantage though, this works even better on lower end GPUs, so that you really don't have to question if the game will run on your hardware or not, just if you need DLSS or FSR, or you can play without these. Or simply just use them because it helps your gameplay smoothness on top of being able to run the game properly. I know, all this sounds too good to be true, but believe me, I personally always tended to play games natively, but once you use DLSS in games where it is decently implemented and where rendered graphics look really good, the upscaling techniques work wonders, and most of the times you don't really notice the difference as anti-aliasing is mostly integrated into these features as well, which will smoothen out the overall image to produce a decently looking final result. Last but not least, when should you use which of these features? DLSS is technically only available on RTX graphics cards, so basically anything that doesn't use the old term GTX for its model. So you should favor that whenever your graphics card supports it. However, in some cases FSR can produce a better image, and of course I will try to test this by heart whenever Dawntrail comes out. The main advantage though, while being developed by AMD, the GPU counterpart to NVIDIA kinda, you can use it on all graphics cards, so having a choice for the everlasting GTX 1060 gang as well, which is a great thing to have. But of course all those players with AMD hardware can use FSR too, and console players in particular, while this might be baked into the default settings and profiles on your Xbox or PlayStation 4 and 5, having these features available will benefit your overall gameplay experience too. From the results of the benchmark, I would argue that without DLSS or FSR, the hardware requirements and overall performance of the game will take a small hit in favor of the updated visual quality. But whenever you enable upscaling features, the game will play in the same way as it does in Endwalker and on your current rig, so don't worry too much about needing to upgrade any of your hardware. So stay tuned for my in-depth testing of these features once the expansion has been released, and if you need more info or explanation about any of these terms and features, just let me know in the comment section and I will do a follow-up video to this one here. For some basic terminology, check out some of the graphics settings and hardware related Final Fantasy XIV videos in the description. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the benchmark or the updated benchmark when it's being released, and keep loving Final Fantasy.